Madam Speaker, the Honorable Acting Prime Minister and Cabinet colleagues, the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Members of the House, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. Madam Speaker, I rise to reiterate the opening address by His Excellency the President of Fiji, in which the government will continue to introduce policies and legislation intended to modernize the economy, create increased economic opportunity, and encourage economic and social development. One of which is the introduction of the new 2016 Forest Bill, which is intended to address good governance, compliance, and promote entrepreneurship in order to capitalize on emerging issues and opportunities that sets the balance between economic development and resource sustainability. The planted forest policy will further increase forest production and economic returns while reducing pressure on our natural resources. Madam Speaker, I wish to congratulate the Honorable Prime Minister for the honor and responsibility in his capacity as the President of the upcoming COP23 in Bonn, Germany. This is a first for a small island developing state to lead the 197 nations to a consensus that will substantially reduce global warming. This is significant due to our role as custodians of our forest in ensuring the sustainable management and conservation of our forest resources, which in turn will further contribute to reducing the impacts of climate change on our vulnerable ecosystems and communities. Madam Speaker, my ministry continues to play its part in climate change adaptation and mitigation strategies. The readiness phase of our National REDD Plus program has progressed significantly, which will eventually transition into result-based payments for carbon in 2020. These payments will directly benefit the forest resource owners for the conservation and sustainable management of their resources for the purpose of carbon emission reduction. Madam Speaker, my ministry is formulating a strategic development plan that will guide the sector for the next 13 years. A holistic approach to strategic planning has been adopted, engaging all sectors associated with forestry in order to define goals and initiatives for collaboration in areas that balance industry and commercial development with conservation. This SDP, Madam Speaker, takes into account stakeholder needs, new forest product development, industry development, forest conservation, managing national forest assets, and associated forest-related emerging issues. The SDP also encompasses forest-related international obligations under the Sustainable Development Goals and also addresses our national priorities in a cohesive and effective manner that can be monitored over the life of the SDP 2017-2030. Madam Speaker, under the current budget, my ministry received a total of $16 million, of which $11.8 million is for operating and $3.6 million is for capital expenditure, targeting 2 new initiatives with a total allocation of $972,000. A total of $250,000 is allocated towards promoting, revitalizing, and further expansion of the planting, management, and awareness on our various indigenous tree species to ensure the sustainable supply of various multiple forest benefits. $722,000 is allocated for the purchase of forest harvesting equipment for improved operational efficiency and productivity at the forest community level. Madam Speaker, one of the priorities of my ministry is to provide financial and technical support to our maritime pine communities to ensure their meaningful participation in Fiji's social and economic development. A total budget of $0.9 million is allocated for the setting up of timber processing facilities to maritime pine to ensure maximum utilization and promotion of value-added products. This is part of the capacity building and empowerment that my ministry, in collaboration with the Fiji Point Trust, to support several communities in the production of timber to meet their building requirements. Excess timbers are sold to further contribute to the economic returns from their plantation resources. Madam Speaker, the Ministry provides an annual subsidy program whereby small and medium wood carving enterprises are assisted with woodworking machinery and tools with each associated training. This has resulted in a mosaic of wood-based cottage industries throughout Fiji. In the last fiscal year, the Ministry has assisted another 7 new applicants for this subsidy. This assistance has enabled the improvement of small-medium enterprises by increasing productivity, creating high standards, and modernizing the wood carving industry, which in the past was practiced in a subsistence manner. His Excellency the President rightfully mentioned changes in law whereby gender equality is promoted. An excellent example of these changes is apparent in my own ministry. Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Forest was well known as a male-dominated ministry over a long period of time. Since the consistent prioritization of gender equality by this government, the ministry has seen a growth in the number of female employees from 7% to 43% of the ministry's workforce. A motivational factor for all women in the ministry is the appointment of the first ever female conservator of forest. And I hope this will set precedents for other women foresters in future. Madam Speaker, suffice to say, both the men and women of the ministry have been at the forefront in our rebuilding efforts following the Tissue Winston devastation. Whether it is with the provision of training, equipment, or expertise, they have continued enabling communities in the salvaging of their forest resources. To date, our efforts has produced 600 cubic meters of sawn timber to sufficiently build 60 houses in Wanamalabu, Yagata, Boa, Koro, Dawasamu, and Korotumbu in Ra. This, Madam Speaker, is the extent of the outreach that my ministry has done towards the rebuilding efforts and will continue to do so. Madam Speaker, in the short to medium term, it is estimated that the forest sector will generate a total of $161 million annually, consisting of export of $115 million, $15 million from the sales of timber from private community timber harvestings, and $1 million paid to communities in terms of timber royalties. The revenue generated from fees collected for our harvesting services only amounts to $0.8 million annually. In the long term, the trees that we will be planting from this budget alone for the purpose of providing ecosystem services is a total of 750 hectares, which will generate $33 million in 50 years. Within those 50 years, Madam Speaker, the ecosystem services provided by this forest will be even greater. The ministry has already planted 696 hectares, which will contribute to both economic and ecosystem benefits from degraded areas which would otherwise be idle land. Madam Speaker, plantation and natural forest both provide multiple economic, ecosystem, and social benefits which need to be managed and protected to ensure their continued availability for current and future generations. We will continue to train and empower forest wardens who will be playing key roles in minimizing illegal forest activities, thus ensuring greater economic returns for forest-dependent communities. The Ministry's enforcement of the Fiji Forest Harvesting Code of Practice has ensured the effective management of the ecosystem and social benefits from forest. Madam Speaker, the budget allocation for forest production, management, and assessment under the 2017-2018 budget is 0.9 million, which is for the management and control of forest harvesting operations. This budget will ensure the ongoing improvements on awareness and implementation of new forest management mechanisms, such as the control of harvesting diameters for various timber species. Madam Speaker, recently, Fiji Pine Limited distributed lease security bonus payments amounting to a record of $1.5 million to each pine landowners. 2 weeks ago, I personally visited Nakanrungu in Boa, Wesinrua in Mabuata, and Kumura to distribute the checks to the pine landowners and also hear firsthand their issues. It does not surprise me at all that the other side of the House has come up with questions relating to pine industry, which is once again based on untrue facts. I was expecting this when distributing the checks 2 weeks back, since it was making news on the media, showing emotions and joys of our landowners. Madam Speaker, instead of appreciating the Bainimarama government's initiative, where the landowners are now getting a share of profit from the pine industry, they come up with all these issues, which is not based on facts. It seems that they are running out of ammunition. And when one is at this stage, he or she should not fire blindly. Now coming to the issues raised regarding overplanted areas. It is very irresponsible of them to say that most of the areas are overplanted. Yes, we do have cases of overplanted areas, and there are procedures for addressing this. This includes the claim being raised by the landowners to my ministry. My ministry refers this matter to Fiji Pine Limited for joint verification with Itauke Land Transport on the ground. Once the area is verified to be outside the FPL's lease, the FPL grants a release letter. Madam Speaker, in most cases, we have come to know that the claims of overplanted areas arise from incorrect survey data. Upon verification, we find that these are within FPL leases. It is important to note that this issue originated from SVT. When the initial leases were taken, we had many governments, including SDL, who have come and gone, and no action has been taken to address this issue. Now when Bainimarama and Fiji First government has set the procedures to address this, the other side has an issue. If they have any specific issue that any of the landowners have raised, please do forward that to my ministry, and we will address them. I hope that this is clarified once and for all. Madam Speaker, Fiji's forest sector is at a crucial point in its development as it tries to capitalize on new opportunities and at the same time addressing emerging challenges. As we address the challenges in the short term, we must not lose sight of our long-term vision of building a sustainable forest sector, enhancing community livelihood, and creating competitive workforce. Madam Speaker, my ministry is committed to setting high standards for conservation and development by working with the people of Fiji and providing opportunities for the sustainable development of their forest resources. The strong partnership between our stakeholders and government give us a unique advantage, and we must continue to make conscious efforts to cultivate and strengthen fish partnership. By working together as a team, we can leverage on our strengths to position our sector and workforce for any challenges, be it local, national, regional, or global, and emerge stronger and more united. Madam Speaker, I would like to express my gratitude to the government of the day, staff of my ministry, our stakeholders, and the general public who have provided continued support in the development and prosperity of the forest sector, and to all development partners, non-governmental and community organizations working towards the well-being and progress of our forest-dependent communities and the nation. In conclusion, I would like to state my full support to the President's gracious speech, and let us be ambitious in shaping a brighter future for our beloved nation. Thank you.